It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling Show! It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling
Sorry this took so long. It took me a while to process my thoughts on the Night of Champions pay-per-view, and besides, I like to watch the Raw afterwards because sometimes the results can kind of completely invalidate the results of the pay-per-view. Or, in the case of Raw, it can just be a complete repeat of the pay-per-view you just saw. And in fact, this does tie into what I'm about to talk about. The fact that pay-per-views aren't pay-per-views anymore. And the WWE seems to know that. In fact, it's kind of become part of the business model. So much so that it's fundamentally changed the way they've started doing business. They're not focusing on pay-per-views anymore, and I realize that. It's a big realization, you know. I don't even think. I think maybe they've done it without even realizing what they're doing themselves. You know, I'm not being very clear. What they're doing is they're selling you the network. If you don't know that by now, Jesus Christ. They are doing nothing but selling you the network. Going on and on and on and on and about it. To the point where, this is really what I want to talk about. To the point where Michael Cole is almost literally, if not literally, calling you stupid for paying $55 for the pay-per-view. He says, and I quote, "Remember, you paid $55 for this." This is, he said something like this many times during the pay-per-view, but especially at the end of Night of Champions, after the disqualification finish to the main event, which I will talk about later. But yeah, the main event ended in a disqualification, which is always terrible. Always. And Michael Cole afterwards said, "Remember, you paid $55 for this." Wow. You just called everyone who bought your product stupid. What he was trying to do was sell the network, which you can get for $9.99. But in the process, you just called every one of your customers who paid you a great deal more money stupid. You know, there's reasons why they're not being cheap. You know, it's not like they're resisting the network by resisting some kind of 6-month commitment. It's not like they don't know. God damn it, it's not like they don't know about the network already. There's reasons why one might not get the network. A lot of reasons. You know, bad internet. For one, I have really good internet, and I had problems with the stream. Stream went down 3 times. I have very good internet, you know, and the stream was shitting itself like crazy. I missed the end of, which match was it? The Tag Team Championship match. I missed the end of it. It flaked out completely. I didn't see it. Luckily, I was able to go back and watch it as the show was going on, which I missed the end of a match in WrestleMania. I wasn't able to go back until the replay, you know, until it was over and it had been kind of archived or whatever. But somehow I was able to go back while it was playing. I was surprised by that. But yeah, as I was playing, stream just derped. That's not a good feeling. The video quality kept switching between like this really blocky SD, and I don't think I ever really got to full HD. So sometimes if you want to experience it in full quality, you might actually consider paying full price. Sometimes if you have shit internet service, you might be forced to pay full price. Or you just want to pay full price. Maybe you live in a place that doesn't have good internet, and you really want to see the pay-per-view, full price. Maybe you live in Canada, which is a huge wrestling, historically huge fans of wrestling. But the WWE network there sucks because I forget what the company, Rogers, I think it is, Rogers Cable. The network there is on-demand cable and sucks because it's not the same network that we have in America. In America, it's multi-device. It's very, very convenient here in comparison to fucking Rogers anyway. I'm hoping it's Rogers. I'm making an ass of myself otherwise. But you can access it from a number of different devices. There's so much more shows that you can access. This one, you have to access it through your cable on the TV, like on demand, like getting a movie, like renting a movie. It's so inconvenient. And there's so much less content to view. It's terrible. So you know, if you live in Canada, you may have to buy full price. You know, overseas, forget it. If you can even watch it, you know, and you're calling them idiots. They did it on Raw, and my favorite bit was on Raw, where they showed this fucking insulting, just condescending bar graph. It would be hilarious if it wasn't so insulting. Where they showed, this is the price you paid for the pay-per-view. And this is how much you pay every month for the network. It goes $9.99, $54.99. Bing! Like, this one's so much bigger to illustrate that 55 bigger than 10. You needed a bar chart to illustrate, like, oh, I get it. And you know what? It probably did help some people. I'm insulting you now. No, it's like, do the math, people. Like, some people just don't want the network, you know, and then they put on a shitty show, you know. They put on a shitty show on purpose, you know. And then they say, wow, you paid $55 for this shit. How dumb are you? Like, look at this shit. And you paid for it. That's what they're saying. Amazing to me. Amazing. Can you imagine if... You don't have to imagine. They're doing it. Like, they're like, look at that. Wow, that was shit. Wow. That was some bullshit. You paid for that. Wow. Wow. You know, you shouldn't do that again. But buy the network. You can watch this shit for way cheaper. At least you won't feel as robbed. That's what they're saying. You won't feel $10. Wow, you got fucked up the ass. But for only $10 a month, well, that won't sting quite as much. And you can subscribe to a monthly ass fucking. You might get to like it. I don't really know how much, if I can keep doing this. You know, it's actually really, I know people keep saying that, like, you know, I'm going to stop watching. It's actually legitimately, it's not that I don't like, it's not like I object to John Cena. I keep saying this. John Cena is extremely talented, extremely charismatic. Honestly, I got no problem with John Cena. I don't. It's the way he's being utilized. It's the way... Actually, I do have problems with John Cena. Whatever. It's the way he's being utilized. It's the way he's being booked. You know, as soon as I saw... You know, remember how excited I was after he got crushed at the last pay-per-view by Brock Lesnar. Nobody had ever seen anything like that before. Or at least for the WWE anyway. Probably may have happened elsewhere or something like that. But I was so excited. I was like, we have seen something that is historic. You know, the guy who doesn't sell anything just got destroyed. Never seen a title match like that before. Have to see where this is going. We've established a monster unlike anything that has ever been established before. Where do we go from here? You know, does John Cena make some kind of epic comeback? What does that journey look like? Does somebody else step up? We have to see the journey here. There's no journey. It was like, everything nice I said about that, fuck that. Why? because the way the story was written, John Cena misses 1 week. One. That week, Paul Heyman comes out and says, John Cena would be here, but he's in the hospital because Brock Lesnar beat him so bad. And I'm like, yeah, that's how you do it. That you have Brock Lesnar be such a dominant monster, he puts people in the hospital. Week after, he's back. Not only is he back, now I was like, okay, well, I hear he's coming back, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe that he comes back, but he's still a wreck, you know? Maybe he's in denial, his pride won't let him admit defeat, you know? You know, like, he's still, like, everyone thinks it's a bad idea. Everyone thinks that, and it's obviously, clearly a bad idea. Like, he's crushed. He's got, you know, bad ribs, bad back. He's hurting. Like, they're like, there's no way you can beat this guy. Not in your condition. You need to stop. No, he's not only back, he's not only fine, he is not injured. He's fine. 100%. A week later, from taking one of the worst beatings in history. Straight up beatings in a championship match. Fine. But not only that, he is better than fine. He is better than ever. Apparently, legendarily bad ass kickings by Brock Lesnar have rejuvenative properties. It's like visiting the fountain of youth. Not only that, they put him in a match against Bray Wyatt, a guy that previously in redundant months, redundantly took him to the limit in previous pay-per-views. You know, he had trouble with Bray Wyatt. You know, he'd lost matches to Bray Wyatt in cage matches. He'd barely beaten this guy in Last Man Standing. Now, he takes a beating from Brock Lesnar, destroyed. 1 week afterward, he misses 1 week, comes back. Now he's laying the same kind of ass kicking on Bray Wyatt, who gets 0 offense in. I'm like, done. Done! Not only did you fuck the story up, you've ruined, almost basically ruined the menace of Brock Lesnar, and you've killed Bray Wyatt. Not only have you killed Bray Wyatt, I don't know what the fuck they're doing with the tag team, the Wyatt clan. No clue. They're gone. They're fucking gone. What the fuck happened to them? Apparently they visited my house and abducted me. Don't even ask. Don't even ask what happened there. Anyway. I honestly don't know. There are ways you could fuck it up worse, but not many. I don't know what they were thinking. I really don't. It really is infuriating. And from a storytelling point of view, the number of ways this could have been an all-time classic storyline. Not difficult at all. The number of ways you could have told this. And I've gone on about this. I don't want to torture this point. But anybody, just from a second's thought, could have come up with a better comeback storyline than this. Because anybody who saw this and then saw John Cena come back a week later would have been like, what? It doesn't make sense. I don't know if they got cold feet and thought like, you know, McMahon or whoever's in the office is like, we can't keep John Cena off TV for more than 1 week. Our ratings will die. Maybe that was it. I don't know. Are they that afraid? You know, they lost CM Punk and they lost Daniel Bryan. They're like, well, we can't. We need John Cena back. We got to have him. But like, at what cost? You know, terrible stuff. I also like the only way to make this storyline make sense is if it's later revealed that Vince McMahon, like underneath Titan Towers, has like a cloning lab, like the end scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark with just columns, rows upon rows of cloning tanks with like fetal John Cena's in various stages of growth from fetal to to full grown. And, whenever one of them gets injured, they kill it and then hatch a new John Cena prototype, which is what that's why they called him originally Prototype, because he was the first John Cena replica. They grew him from stem cells, from like Big Boss, the Solid Snake, from a number of different wrestlers, the Ultimate Wrestler, genetically spliced together, and they grew him, and then they have a lab full of John Cena's, and so that's how Brock Lesnar actually crippled him, legitimately, and so they killed him, and then new John Cena comes back. That's what they did. I just wrote a better storyline from WCW. That's what I would have done. But it makes more sense. I would have bought it more than what they're pulling now. Seriously, I should go get my ass kicked by Brock Lesnar. A week later, I would miss a week in the hospital, and then I would come back, and then I would be a fucking killer. You would see me legitimately, throwing people through walls. I would be able to lift trucks. That's what wrestling says. That's what the WWE is telling me. This is not where I'm getting most offended by this, and legitimately offended, is the show is getting uncomfortable to watch. Because they're not about entertainment anymore. It's becoming very clear about that. They're about selling product. Bear with me. Because some of you are going, well, no shit, they're a company, they're a business. Just wait. They're flat out telling you that they're selling something. They're just pulling the curtain aside. The announcers, Triple H, Vince McMahon, everybody. In storyline, whatever storyline remains, they're having characters come out, breaking character. Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar, they're coming out in the middle of badass speeches, even speeches that are supposed to be real, real. I'm gonna kill you, John Cena, just like I did last month, which you can see on the network for only $9.99. That's what they're doing. Paul Heyman will come out and say John Cena, you only, you won 2012, but you may have won that battle, but you lost the war. And if you for those of you who don't remember, you can go back and see it on the network for only $9.99. I'm not even kidding you when I tell you that's what they're saying. And they think they're being clever by trying to lampshade it. By making it a gag, by making it a joke, by saying it over and over and over and over again. By saying every sentence and then ending it by going, for only $9.99, it's getting to the point where even making $9.99 jokes is becoming hack. Because people played it out immediately. Because it's even joking about the lameness of it is lame now. I'm not joking about it. I'm just telling you how it is. And the reason this is terrible is because it just reeks of desperation. The network must be doing terribly. And they're flat out, they're all but telling you that it's doing terribly. Because all they want to talk about is money. All they want to do is just constantly sell. Sell. Everything they're doing now is to sell a product. When they're not selling the network, they're selling Total Divas, which is on the network, which you can see for only $9.99. Also, when they're running commercials, they're showing you, don't miss Total Divas, which is on the network, and after that, you can watch a marathon of Slam City, which is on the network for only $9.99. Yeah, way to sell the network, guys. I can't wait to see an episode of fucking Slam City. By the way, if the best your network has to offer is fucking Total Divas, move the fuck on. And your best commercial for Total Divas is the Bellas and Eva Marie. First off, you need to get Eva Marie out of the fucking wrestling ring as soon as goddamn possible. She is the worst. I repeat, the worst female performer in the wrestling ring I have ever seen since Lacey Von Erich. If you don't believe me, look Eva Marie up, and then look Lacey Von Erich up. Jesus Christ. Wow. She is wow bad. Rosa Mendez. Look up the last couple of Rosa Mendez matches. Actually, you know what? Don't. Wow. And then they're like, you could see all this and more on fucking Total Divas. No. Don't. Actually, I'm not even sure Total Divas is on the network, but they say it's on, like, I don't care. Who is watching this? Apparently it's getting enough ratings to stay solvent or whatever. They're not canceling it. People are watching it. Who? Are women watching it? What demographic? I cannot believe dudes are watching it. Because there's no titties in it. There's not like you're going to see boobs. It's not like you're going to see... They're not going to take their tops off. You might, like... I know there's probably a couple scenes where they're, like, walking around in their underwear. Woo! You're never going to see them, like, step out of the shower or make out with each other. I know, that, like... I'm not being a pig here. I'm saying, like... The only reason you would probably tune in to Total Divas are for the most shallow fucking reasons. Because I ain't tuning in to see it for their acting. Look at the Bellas sometime. I sure as fuck ain't seeing it for their fucking acting. I sure as fuck ain't seeing it for the reality of it. Because, come on. I sure as fuck ain't tuning in for it for the classic goddamn script writing. So the only reason I can think of that anyone attracted to women is going to tune in is for titties. I ain't seeing it because in this day and age, more than ever, titties are a Google image search away. I don't need to tune into Total fucking Divas for that amount of pain. It ain't happening. And if you're trying to sell us on titties, like putting them in the wrestling ring, that ain't the best way. Whoa, believe me. Getting worked up over this shit. Yeah, they're ramming Total Divas down our throat. I have no fucking clue why. They got that and Legends House, which they're showing more titties in Legends House than they are in Total Divas. And I'm not talking women. They're trying to get fucking mean, probably Mean Gene, but like, everybody's really, Finkel's shirts off, Howard Finkel's shirt off. I'm like, oh my god. That's just a scripted, by the way. You know, they're taking him to Chippendales dance classes or something. Oh Lord. You know, that's the extent of their originally produced content is fucking Divas and Slam City and Legends House. My God. It's unbelievable. You know, yeah. Here's the couple problems with the way they're advertising it. First, you're advertising it, you're preaching it to the choir. You're advertising it to wrestling fans, many of whom probably already are subscribed. If they're not, you're annoying them. You're nagging them. Repeating $9.99 over and over and over and over again isn't going to work. Showing them more Total Divas, that ain't helping. Showing them Howard Finkel's titties, that ain't helping. Pestering us, not helping. You know, you've got to try to advertise out of the comfort zone. You've got to get advertise elsewhere. You have to. Because all you're doing is turning people off. In fact, and putting on shitty pay-per-views is only encouraging. Calling your audience stupid for paying for shitty pay-per-views, putting on bait-and-switch pay-per-views, which they have done again. I don't want to renew for that. Why would you? I'm definitely not paying full price. There's just so many other things that they could be talking about and promoting on the World Wrestling Entertainment Network that would sell subscriptions. And it almost seems like they're coming around to realizing it, and then they just put more Total Divas on there. Like NXT, which is honestly the best thing going right now. It's better than Raw. It's better than SmackDown. It's better than anything they're putting on. And it's only on the network. By God, they have to start pushing this more. One of the best ideas they ever had was putting the NXT guys in a tag match on Raw. They've got to start doing this, especially since they lost Roman Reigns to an incarcerated hernia. Oh, that's going to hurt. Both Roman and the main event picture. Bad times. Bad. Oh my God, that has to suck for everyone involved. Especially Roman, don't get me wrong. I don't even know what that feels like, but whoa. Every breath he takes, that has to suck. But yeah, NXT, that if you don't watch that, you have to at least check it out, because that show's amazing. Really good. But anyway, I'm just going to wrap this up by saying the reason I find it so uncomfortable is because it's just desperate. I'm guessing the network is doing horribly. They're not meeting their numbers. You know, I'm guessing they're not meeting anywhere near the numbers. It's like all they want to talk about is money. Storylines, telling stories, being entertaining, has taken a far back seat. They're not even about that anymore. You know, it's to the point where they're just like, they're begging. It's this side. It's just this short of begging. You know, it's almost like they're asking you to. They're like, hey, do you know anyone who likes wrestling? Really? Because God, we need help. Really, we really got to sell this network, guys. You know, it's only $10. Really? You know, $10. Come on, man. You got to help us out. We got divas, man. Divas! Who don't like fucking divas? You like women, right? They got huge hooters. John Cena in a cartoon. You know, what they've got to do... sell wrestling. That's what it's all about. You're focusing on the wrong thing. And I don't know why it's so complicated. It just seems like maybe Vince McMahon or whoever's doing this is so fixated, like he just wants to be about entertainment. He wants to be broad spectrum. That's it. You know, he wants to encapsulate everything. He wants to be TV, movies. He wants to it's almost like he's ashamed of wrestling. Could be. And that's what it is. You know, that's what you're selling the network on. To me, you've got to push NXT. You've got to sell it hard, and because that really is that's the shining star of that network. What you've got to do is you've got to show us there's so much good content on the network that we don't know is out there. You know, you've got to tell us what we can find on the network. There's so much content there, but even I know all this shit, but I've forgotten what's good to see, you know, or when it is, or, you know, it's like a bargain bin, but, you know, I could be like, it's just a list, you know, I could go, oh, King of the Ring, and it goes from 1994 to 2000, whatever the last one is, 2006 or something like that, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of King of the Rings. Which one do I want to see? I don't know. And when you click on it, it doesn't even give you a list of matches. You know, it only gives you, when you load the video, there's like, it gives you dots on the timeline, but you have to like hover over each of the dots to find out what the matches are. Problem is, you have to hover over every other dot because the end dot tells you what the result of the match is, so you can spoil the result of the match if you're not careful. Which sucks. It would help if at the very least they would provide a list of matches on the sidebar or something like that. But I think if they were trying to sell the network, and this is just me, it would help if like every week they would provide a series of features, like featurettes, talking about really, really cool things that you could see on the network that involve wrestling. For instance, stuff from WCW. There was cool stuff from WCW. Either really, really bad moments, like the Yeti, or RoboCop. I'm not even sure the RoboCop stuff, a lot of the WCW stuff probably isn't there, but let's say you want to see RoboCop. Okay. Do a featurette on fucking RoboCop. And say like, you want to see the Nitro or whatever, Thunder or Nitro with RoboCop? Well, this is when it is. Go see this Nitro. This is the date and put it on the front page. Maybe they have, I don't know, but put it on Raw. Like, do a featurette on that, and you can see this fucking network, and you see it for $9.99. They may have done, they usually do like top 10 worst ideas in wrestling, like a documentary. I don't want to see that though. I want to see the show. You know, I don't really like those top 10 lists and documentaries. A lot of people do. I don't want to see the other ones. I want to see the Nitro. I want to see the other matches on that show. Maybe I want to see the Shockmaster. That's an infamous show. Do the show, but those are always on the top 10 lists. Those are always like the top 10 worst ideas in wrestling. Tell me what the show, when and where the Shockmaster debuts. Show me when, tell me when the show's the worst ideas are, and then do that. Tell me when the War Games matches are, and what episodes and what pay-per-views those are. You know, when the Finger Poke of Doom happened. You know, when that shitty fucking, I think it was a Nitro or something like that, but when that shit happened, you know, historic Goldberg matches, you know, do a featurette or 2 or 3 on every Raw and every SmackDown. Tell us when the date is, or tell us what pay-per-view it is, and then point it out on the network and say, like, that was just a clip from this historic match. But if you want to see the whole show, you got to go to the network. That's what I do. That's just me. And they don't do that. You know, they're always about Total Divas, blah, blah, blah. Total Divas, Slam City. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about your crappy fucking cartoon. I don't give a shit about your crappy acting divas with their big fake titties. I just don't care. I came here to watch wrestling. Wrestling! That's it. You know, maybe I want to see fucking Goldberg jackhammer people because I ain't seen it in years. But I don't know when that shit happened. Like really good, the really cool, awesome stuff. I don't know when. Maybe I want to see Austin spray fuckers down with the beer truck. But I don't remember what day that happened. I don't know when. Do a featurette on when that happened. So I can go find it. Because your search function is fucking useless. That's another thing you gotta fix. Just do it. Then you can link it on the front page. You don't need to make it link it on the front page of the network. But you've got to point that shit out. You've got to have a guy do just featurettes. That's it. It doesn't take long. 30 seconds. And you're selling the network. But all they do is they're like, but you can see the next pay-per-view, which we're going to fuck you on, for $9.99. And you can see, all they ever say about the old ones is they're like, and you can see all the other ones for $9.99. For instance, you can see all the other WrestleManias. That's all they ever say, by the way. All those WrestleManias for $9.99. That's it. Maybe I want to see Mankind go off the Hell in a Cell. When was that? It was a King of the Ring. Which one? I don't know. I think it was like 99 or something. I don't know, but I just saw it actually. I still don't remember what it was. 96 maybe. 96? Whatever. Maybe I want to see Shane. I just saw this one too. I think it was 2002. I think I want to see Shane McMahon get suplexed on his fucking head like 3 times when Kurt Angle tried to suplex him through a fucking window and failed like 3 times. Yeah. Maybe I want to see that one. Tell us when that was, so I can go see it. That was fucking great. It was a fucking great match. Sell us on that. People would buy the network to watch it. But it just comes off as desperate when you keep saying $9.99. But you don't tell us why. You just say, oh, there's all this great shit on the network. And you can get all the new pay-per-views. And all the WrestleManias. And I'm like, okay, well, there's all this great shit. I'm like, it's great shit. Cool. Yeah. Whatever. This great shit, though! Yeah, I remember there being really cool stuff. Whatever. You gotta get me enthused. And I'm not getting... Alright. It just comes across as fucking desperate. And it's just... You're just talking about money. You're grabbing for... They really are just like grabbing for your wallet. And I get defensive. You know? I'm just like, get the fuck away from me. You know? It's funny because it's so shameless. They have no shame, you know? They're just like, please, you know, like, not even please, it's just like, come on! Change! You know? It's actually kind of unsettling. That's what I'm going on about. Is they're just like, money, 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 $9.99, $9.99. Even a shitty snake oil salesman tells you lies about how great this stuff is, but at least he tells you stuff that it'll do. You know? He doesn't just say, like, oh, great shit will happen. He tells you, like, oh, it'll make you younger. It'll make your dick hard. It'll add 2 inches to it. You know? He tells you specifics. It cures diseases and grows your hair back. You know? Even the sleaziest snake oil salesman at least tell you specifics. And the thing is, they have specifics. It works. They don't need to lie. And they're just fucking it up. Just tell us facts. Show us cool shit, because there's cool shit there. Ugh. Pay-per-view. I don't know. Almost every one of my predictions on this was wrong. Usually I'm pretty good at this. No, fuck it. I was off on all this. Oh my god. The Usos versus Gold and Stardust. I thought they were going to come up with a tag team name. And this is what they call themselves. Gold and Stardust. That's it. That's the best you could do. Goldust and Stardust was better than that. But Gold and Stardust makes no sense. Dust to dust. Off the top of my head. 10 minutes you could do better. You know, tangent again. Fuck it. I never liked the idea of them. They really want. I'm surprised they wanted to make the Usos like this big tag team dynasty. Really, strange choice in my opinion. Because they were really kind of nothing in the you know the on the totem pole of tag teams for the WWE for a long time. They were virtually jobbers. Then again, so were the Hardy Boys. You know. Historically speaking, going a long way back, they were jobbers on Shotgun Saturday Night, which is a show so old you probably don't even remember it if you hadn't been watching since the 90s. Shotgun Saturday was on Saturday, and it was kind of just like... It was jobber squashes. And actually, jobber squashes are something you don't see anymore on WWE. And what's weird is there was a lot less wrestling back in the 90s. Raw was 2 hours long. There was no SmackDown. And, like, there was Shotgun Saturday Night, which was essentially a recap show of Raw. And there was, like, it was like 2 squash matches with wrestlers who weren't in the company. They were just local assholes. So what it used to be was the Hardy Boys versus just 2 assholes. And they would squash they weren't even like, they would just squash the jobbers. And then it was almost always the Brood versus 2 assholes, or it'd be the Brood versus the Hardys, or hardcore the Job Squad versus 2 established wrestlers. The Job Squad were actually regulars, but the Job Squad they were jobbers. So Al Snow would be there. Yeah. But yeah, Shotgun Saturday Night. So for a long time, the Hardys were glorified jobbers, and then they became one of the most popular and successful tag teams ever. So I don't know. I'm still sad the Shield broke up. I guess I guess what I'm saying there is that if they were going to go with the whole tag team dynasty thing, I would have hoped they would have done it with the Shield. And then they really stuck with the Usos for the longest time. Yeah, weird choice in my opinion. Because they did this dominant tag team thing, like the most dominant tag team in forever with the Shield. And then they did the most dominant tag team in forever with the Usos. And I'm like, back to back. Because they kind of eclipsed the Shield. Don't get me wrong. They are great. Seriously, they put on fantastic matches. Here's the difference. Here's why I don't like the Usos. At least I don't like their title reign. I found their title reign really underwhelming. Because they had the same title matches. They had the same tag matches through their entire title reign. They must have fought. Let's see who their opponents were. Rybaxel, the Wyatts, and Goldust and Cody Rhodes, or any combination thereof, approximately 3 zillion times. They must have fought each other more than the Funks. They seriously have had a zillion matches. Like every week on Raw, and then usually on SmackDown. So twice a fucking week, the Usos and Rybaxel and Goldust and Cody Rhodes, would wrestle in some combination. 6-man tags, singles matches, sometimes singles matches that turned into tag teams, that turned into 6-mans. Just back and forth and tags over and over and over again. I got so sick of it. Thing is, they were almost always really good matches. All of these teams meshed so well together. So, every time they wrestled, you'd be like, that was a really good match. I always felt terrible complaining, because it was like, this is the best ice cream I ever ate. Again. For the 300th time. That's what this was. Usos versus Golden Stardust. Again. Honestly, for this match, I was not impressed. But I don't know if that's just fatigue from this match or what. I am really not feeling Goldust and Stardust as heels. I was actually kind of excited at first, and now I'm just there. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. Or maybe it was just they kind of had a weird thing going on where Cody was acting weird, and I know it's the Stardust thing, but no. He started he took his glove off and started bitch slapping him with it. I don't know why. It added nothing, it contributed nothing, and it built to nothing in the end. I don't know. They did this thing where the part of the story was one of the Usos was working over I think Stardust's leg in revenge for them hurting his leg, and this did not build to the finish in any way. Like, the story was one of the Usos had hurt his leg. So, like, they were working on that. And so, like, in Revenge, Jay or Jimmy was working on his leg. And I'm like, aha, poetic justice. And nothing happened of it. Nothing happened. I hate that. That's probably my biggest pet peeve with any tag team, is when you can't tell them apart. I know, they have face paint on one side and face paint on the other. I hate twin tag teams. Hate them when you can't tell them apart. The commentators can tell. Because they've been trained. In all these years, could never tell. And they go out of their way to make themselves look the same, except for the face paint. Every time I've ever seen a recap, there's no hope in me trying to. It's always Uso 1, Uso 2, and when they start tagging it, I'm like, just that guy and that guy. They're not a good tag team in the sense that, like, if they don't have distinct personalities or personas in the ring, they're just two guys. And I don't want to think of a tag team as those two guys. If they don't have names, they're Jimmy and Jay, sure. But they're those two guys. The Shield had distinct personalities. There was the crazy one. There was the smart and conniving one. There was Hannibal, you know. And then there's the big strong guy who fucking decked people. You know, there was the muscle, Snicked Bub, you know. They had distinct personalities and they had their distinct strengths. That was the strength. That was the coolness of the Shield. You could tell them apart, and they had, when you tagged one in, you knew it was going to happen. When you tag an Uso in, there was that guy, and he's going to do more of the same. He's going to super kick people. By God, do they super kick people a lot. And yeah, he's probably going to go up at the end and superfly splash that guy. Yup. Oh, he's going to tag that guy and he's going to super kick him and super fly splash. I just don't like twin tag teams. I don't. They're really good. Really athletic, and they both do what they do really well. I just don't like the gimmick. Even if you're going to do twin tag teams, you can do distinct personalities. In fact, I find I've known in high school, I used to know two sets of twins who went out of their way really to have distinct personalities because they hated being mistaken. Wouldn't you want to be as distinct as possible? I mean, sure, for acting gigs, it's great to look identical and act identical for acting gigs because that's what you want to do, because twins get really successful at acting gigs. But outside of that, if me and Miles looked alike, I would not want to be mistaken for Miles, because that's annoying as shit. I would think. I don't know, fucking ranting. Goldust and Stardust won. I did not predict this, although I should have, because I would have thought that they were going to do the dominant tag team thing with the Usos. You know, like they beat Goldust and Stardust, and Cole would be orgasmic, you know, like, I have such a huge boner right now! Nobody can beat these guys! And then the Ascension comes in. I thought they were being kind of groomed for the Ascension. But no, they're kind of doing this thing where they're beating the shit out of Kenta. They're kind of bullying Kenta from NXT, which is why I'd rather be watching NXT. Sheamus versus Cesaro. I knew this would steal the show, and it did. And the crowd did not give a shit. And I knew that too. This was a really good tough guy match. This was a very kind of Japanese style match, where they just two very tough guys, big round balls. Just the very Japanese style being they both have fighting a spirit, where they a lot of Japanese matches do this thing where neither one of them wants to back down. They want to compare their balls, so they just stand at each other and like, ah, hit me as hard as you can. And the guy hits him as hard as he can, and the guy goes, ah, no, hit you as hard as you can. Yeah, and so they just do that. They just keep hitting each other as hard as they can until one guy falls down. It's a very Japanese thing. In wrestling, anyway. In pure wrestling. Although mainly in Japanese wrestling, they do it with chops. I've seen a guy in Japanese wrestling get pinned from a chop. And before you think that's stupid, It was credible. You bought it. That guy got the shit chopped out of him. Those guys chop each other so goddamn hard it sounds like a gunshot. But those guys were chopping each other so hard that there was like blood. Not like gushing blood, but it was like... Yeah. But yeah, it was like this... It was this classic thing where like it was like this old veteran guy who just... The look on his face was just like... He did not give any shits. He was not impressed with this young son of a bitch. Just stone-faced. Just like... And there was this young, fiery kid who was trying to show up this young veteran guy. This is a great story going on. And this is so much more interesting than this fucking pay-per-view. And, you know, he was trying to prove himself, and the older guy was showing he was not going to bend for this little fucker. And so they were just chopping the shit out of one another. Ah! And so, yeah. They'd done this for like 20 minutes. Just no moves. Nothing. Just... And you're just sitting there going like, this is awesome. They're just like... Just comparing their nuts. Just chopping until one of them just could not take any more. I was actually wondering if one of them was going to tap out to like Ric Flair chops. It almost did. And then one guy actually got pinned from a chop. And you're like, that makes sense. It did. Eventually, Sheamus wins with a brogue kick out of nowhere. I actually wondered if they were going to make anything out of the brogue kick. The only reason he hit the brogue kick was because the referee pulled him, Cesaro, off of Sheamus in the corner. They didn't seem to do that. Dolph Ziggler versus Johnny Cage for the Intercontinental title. I hate both these men. They did not put on a good match. They put on an okay match last time. This was not that match. First off, they introduced... Now, I admit, I don't listen to music. The new music these kids listen to. Florida Georgia Line, who, just from what I heard recently, suck. There's one who's a scrawny little scarecrow-looking motherfucker, and there's one guy who is not, but they look like they both suck. And they came down for no reason, and they sat at the commentator's table. And then Johnny Cage and Dolph come out. I don't care. And then the commentators, neither do they care. And they proceed to talk to the two musicians about whatever new album they have coming out, and seem oblivious to the fact that there is a match going on. Much more interested about the album. As am I, actually. I am actually considering picking up the album at the time. Because I'm like, stop showing those two assholes in the ring. This music intrigues me. Really, the only guy to escape this angle with any kind of dignity is Damien Sandow, who, it makes me sad to think about how at one time he was actually apparently in the running for the World Heavyweight Championship with the Money in the Bank thing, and they fucking panicked on that one. Oh my god, what have we done? Now he is dressing like Johnny Cage and making a complete ass of himself. But he's throwing himself into it with such gusto. It's actually the only funny thing about it. One can only hope that they kind of recognize that he actually gives a shit. He shouldn't, but he does. And that his hard work and devotion is a benefit and, you know, a credit to the company. Here's hoping. They'll probably blame him for the complete lack of heat. This was disturbingly bad. At one point, Damien Sandow gets in the faces of scrawny scarecrow guy and the ugly guy, and they stand up and they push him down. First off, no. Just from looking at these guys, Damien Sandow would tear them apart. But he's a heel, so the two scrawny musician guys, they're going to shove him in his ass. So... Eventually he runs away. One would think this would lead to the finish, where Miz is distracted, he's looking out like, where are you going? And then he gets rolled up and pinned. No. April and I are watching this happen. When he gets, like, Miz is looking at, Damien Sandow running away, and he's like, where the fuck are you going? This is like every match ever ends this way, when there's like a distraction, and he gets schoolboyed and pinned. That's how it always goes. But no, he gets rolled up, he goes, 1, 2, and then he kicks out. April and I simultaneously went, no! We did. We're like, mother, no, end this match, no! It proceeded to go on for another 4 minutes. And we're just like, oh no, 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 end it, no! This match was terrible. Where it finally broke down was that Miz catches him in the figure 4. Finally, Miz has figured out how to apply the figure 4. Which injures, at least, Dolph's knee. He's actually selling the knee. He's doing it quite well. Because you get put in the figure 4, it hurts. So he's selling the knee. He's still working too fast. But at least he's not doing the 10 punch at warp speed. He has stopped, at least for the moment, doing the 10 elbow drops. Stop that. Thank Christ. He's still working too fast. Whatever. It wasn't warp speed. But he's doing a really good job selling his leg. He's like, oh, I limp. And then he throws a super kick with it. Good job, Dolph. In the end, Miz rolls him up and holds the tights and gets the pinfall, and he wins the Intercontinental Championship. Wait, no. Did I say hold the tights? He fucking pantses the guy. He basically pulls his tights around his ankles. It was horrifying. I can't even. We, again, screamed in abject horror. Yeah, I never want to think about this again. Fast forward to Raw, where I had to think about this again. Where they had their contractually obligated rematch. This match was better. Until they start repeating the spot where Miz tries to roll and hold the tights, except this time they're facing the hard camera. The hard camera being the main camera that we see. This time Miz rolls him up, pulls the tights down to where we see approximately 3/4 of his ass crack. To which we again start screaming. I never wanted to see him. Dolph is here to show the world we've officially, the world has seen too much. Dolph then proceeds to reverse the roll up and pull Miz's pants down. He pulls the tights and gets the pinfall, and he wins the title back. Which is uncommon, by the way. Both the pantsing and winning the rematch to get your title back. So the title's now ping-ponging back, which actually is happening twice now. I have now seen both the Miz's and Dolph Ziggler's ass cracks. Simultaneously! By the way, during that pinfall, I believe I saw both their ass cracks at the same time. You are not selling me the network. It's not helping. I may never eat again. I did not need to see this. By the way, at the time, I was on no sleep. 24 hours, no sleep. And then you show me Dolph and Miz's ass cracks. I was not in the mood for this bullshit. Still am not. No! Normally you would expect me to go on a tirade about how Dolph pulled the trunks and that babyfaces don't do that. In this case, it's okay when a babyface does it because the heel did it first. It's giving the heel a taste of his own medicine. However, it's still not really okay. Because we saw his ass crack. Typically, it's only like when a chair is brought in the ring, you can hit him with it. Pulling tights is weird. It's always weird. And it's Dolph Ziggler who sucks, so fuck that guy. Seth Rollins. Oh, fuck. Seth Rollins. They did it again!